Have you ever thought of solitude as a resource? It might seem like a counterintuitive idea, especially if you're facing the second half of your life, when solitude becomes more pronounced and can be particularly difficult to endure. This happens because, as the years go by, social connections decrease, professional roles are lost, one feels less attractive and increasingly invisible to others, making solitude a more frequent and harder companion to ignore. But solitude, if understood and accepted, can become an extraordinary opportunity for growth and transformation. Here's what the philosopher Seneca tells us. Solitude is to the spirit what fasting is to the body. This is especially true for those over 60, a time when deep changes, both internal and external, are often faced. Social dynamics shift, connections with loved ones fade, work life ends, and sometimes even physical conditions make it harder to participate in community life. It's no coincidence that globally, over 20% of elderly people suffer from depression, and a significant number even resort to extreme actions. Social isolation, feeling useless or out of place, can have devastating consequences. These alarming numbers only confirm that solitude is one of the greatest challenges for those growing older. Studies show that social isolation increases the risk of mortality by 29%, a percentage comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day or excessive alcohol consumption. In fact, the impact of solitude is so strong that it even surpasses that associated with obesity. And it's not just about mortality. Solitude has devastating effects on physical and mental health, contributing to cardiovascular diseases, cognitive decline, and worsening conditions like anxiety, depression, and stress. The goal of this video is to offer a new perspective on this widespread issue, highlighting the potential of solitude for individual evolution. Moreover, it seeks to clearly differentiate between solitude and isolation, as it's crucial to understand that there is an important distinction between the two experiences. Isolation, often born from a misunderstanding and rejection of solitude, is actually the result of losing awareness of who we truly are. Sri Aurobindo said, "In solitude, the self discovers itself." As we live, we increasingly identify with the body and mind, forgetting our true essence, consciousness. Consciousness is the fundamental essence of human experience, a primary reality that transcends matter and energy, the source of all perception, awareness, and sense of self. It's this forgetfulness that makes us feel separated and alone. Instead, if we remembered that we are consciousness, we would feel united with everything around us, as the awareness of our true nature would make us perceive the deep connection we have with the universe. We would never truly be alone, but part of something much greater. Solitude, which can indeed be the tool to reunite with consciousness, is therefore a natural state, an intrinsic part of our existence. Isolation, on the other hand, is pathological because it deprives the individual of vital social and emotional connections. Solitude, if lived with awareness, can become a powerful force for transformation. Conversely, isolation, often born from the rejection of solitude, brings suffering, discomfort, and a sense of emptiness that can grow exponentially as the years pass. The problem is that modern society has taught us to fear solitude. From birth, we are surrounded by people, relationships, and social bonds. The group, the family, friends, all provide us with a sense of security and belonging. As children, we learn to identify ourselves through others, to define who we are based on how we are perceived by them. We grow up with the idea that being alone is something negative, something to be avoided at all costs. That without relationships, we are nothing, and so we end up letting relationships define us. Thus, when life confronts us with solitude through the loss of a loved one, retirement, or other natural changes of aging, we react by immediately trying to fill that void. We dive into new relationships, join clubs, participate in social activities. But often these actions are not driven by a genuine desire for connection. Instead, they are a response to the fear of being alone. How many relationships are born just from the need to defeat the sense of isolation? How many times do we find ourselves in company to avoid facing that sense of emptiness that scares us? The truth is that solitude is an integral part of our nature. No one can escape it. Paulo Coelho wrote, "Solitude is not the absence of company, but the moment when our soul is free to speak to us. Birth itself separates us from a condition of unity and immerses us in a world of individuality and separation. Yet this separation is not a condemnation, but an opportunity to know ourselves, to experience, and to grow. It becomes a condemnation only for those who completely identify with the body and mind, forgetting their true essence. The great opportunity that old age offers us is precisely to be less distracted by the games of material life, allowing us to focus on reconnecting with ourself, even through the experience of solitude. Solitude is therefore not something to run away from, but a reality we can embrace. Only when we stop avoiding it can we begin to understand it for what it truly is, an opportunity to discover who we really are. The great spiritual master Paramahansa Yogananda said, "Solitude is the mother of wisdom." We are all born into a family, a social context that provides protection, care, and initially, a clear definition of our identity. As children, we rely on these bonds to understand who we are and what our place in the world is. But as we grow, we become aware of an inevitable fact: we are alone. We are separated from everyone and everything. No relationship, no matter how deep, can ever fill this inner feeling that belongs only to us. Solitude, then, is something we might accept or even seek as an essential part of our life to reunite with the whole. You can try to ignore it, hide it under a series of superficial relationships, but in the end, it will turn into isolation and cause you suffering. On the contrary, when you accept it and live it fully, solitude can become a space of freedom. It is your freedom from the crowd, from others' expectations, from the need for approval. In this sense, solitude is not a lack, but a gift. It allows you to discover who you are beyond social labels and conventions. Here's a beautiful quote from the master Eckhart Tolle. "Silence and solitude are great teachers, and to learn their lessons, you must pay attention to them." Away from the noise of daily life, you can finally ask yourself deep and meaningful questions. Who am I really? What is the purpose of my life? This reflection is fundamental for evolving and growing as aware and complete individuals. And it's even more crucial for those in the second half of life who want to face it in the most interesting and evolutionary way possible, without being overwhelmed by the fear of isolation. When you fear isolation, you tend to invest your vital energy in trying to escape it, chasing relationships as an antidote, instead of using that energy to discover who you truly are and foster your evolution. Instead, directing energy toward the awareness of your inner essence by embracing solitude, rather than filling the void with superficial bonds, paves the way for a life rich in meaning, wisdom, and personal growth. Unfortunately, the average person spends most of their life trying to avoid this confrontation with solitude. They take refuge in social relationships, distractions, and habits that keep them anchored to the surface of their existence. But solitude, the real kind, cannot be ignored forever. This is because it is your deepest truth, your essence. Sooner or later, you will have to face it, and when you do, you will discover that within it lies a peace and joy you never imagined. True growth does not come with physical aging, but with inner evolution. Growing means discovering who you really are, beyond the body and mind. It is a process that requires courage because it involves leaving behind everything you thought you were. It means recognizing that your personality, the one others have built around you, is not your true essence. Discovering solitude is like dying before you die, and being reborn. Dying as a personality, as an ego, and being reborn as pure awareness. And this awareness is your deepest truth. You are alone, but you are not isolated. Here is what the spiritual master Thich Nhat Hanh reminds us. True solitude is within, where you are in communion with the universe. You are part of a whole, of a universal consciousness that transcends superficial relationships and social labels. When you reach this awareness, solitude is no longer something to fear, but an infinite source of peace, freedom, and love. Accepting your solitude is the first step toward a full and fulfilling life, even in the second half of your existence. Understanding and truly embracing solitude means finding an inner balance that frees us from the need for relationships as an escape from isolation. This allows us to live authentic connections based on the desire to share rather than the fear of being alone. When solitude becomes a constant and accepted presence, social life becomes richer, more intense, and deeper because it arises from inner fullness, not from lack. Don't try to fill the void with temporary distractions or superficial relationships. Instead, use this time to discover yourself, to explore who you really are. In this discovery, you will find true joy, true peace. Only then can you truly live, free from external expectations and conditioning. Solitude is not an enemy but your greatest ally. Rumi left us this wonderful phrase. Solitude is a sacred moment because only when you are alone can you hear the voice of the divine. Thank you for watching this video to the end. If it was helpful to you, I invite you to subscribe to the Longebility Mindset channel and share it with those who you think can benefit from it. Together, we can build a longer, healthier, and happier life, fully embracing body, mind, and spirit.